Backstage Pass. I am your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I also got a couple closed roadie groups, one called the Backstage Pass, another one called Death by Loadout. With me this evening in my ever-ending quest to talk gear and all things live production and industry, here's my dear, good friend and co-host, Kyle Thomas. How are you, sir?
Great, man. Good to see you, brother.
It's really good to see you. It's been lovely to have you around the house. I'm going to make an observation that you got your ears lowered.
Yeah, ears lowered. I'm looking a little bit more cop-like. They went a little short, so in a month or two it'll grow back out. It'll be back to normal.
There is a little bit of a Johnny thing going on there. There's a little bit of a Johnny Law / maybe Commando guy or something.
Yeah, went a little short. But, it just saves me an extra month. I don't have to go back to the barber for
When we discussed your philosophy on this, I had to admit that I understood because last time I got a haircut. And I kind of want to talk hair. I actually wrote it, not tonight, but historically, because a man of my age is having some hair stuff that, I know some other men my age are dealing with. I went and got a haircut recently, and I felt they'd cut it too short, but you don't say anything. You just bail. It's what it is.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and I swear to God, sometimes it takes only a couple days, and you kind of forget about it, and whatever. This son of a bitch took like a couple weeks. Nothing happened. It's just like my hair shut off.
Well, you're getting older. That's what happens.
So
right?
weird. Regardless, you look great, buddy. You look great.
What's going on? Bubba. So just wanted to give a shout out to the Jewel and Hunter Hayes for our last week's gig. It was very nice having them up in Napa. Me and Mike Brown went out and handled some audio for them. It was a nice time.
Yeah, word on the street is that went really well, and the people were very happy. I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah, we got to try out some of the Rivage series for the first time. It was nice getting on the desk, learning a little bit. Man, that thing sounds so fucking good without doing too much.
I like it when you say that, yeah. What were you working on, the 7s, the 10s, the split?
Both 7 and a 10, yeah. I think Mike was on the 7, I was on the 10. They were both very nice. Little hard learning curve getting the twin lane stuff set up, but it was very enjoyable. We've also been plucking away at these corporate gigs. All today we've just been prepping a bunch of gear to go out over the next couple of weeks. So it's been good getting new gear in and shuffling stuff around to make some money.
Here's a weird one for me is, we've been getting a batch of stuff in here, Gator stuff, Pelly stuff, different case stuff, different cabling, TMB, so on and so forth. All the different folks that we are lucky enough to partner with. Whirlwind, blah, 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 on and on. But one that is oddly exciting for me, and I can't tell you why, it just is. It's we got a batch of some new stands in.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and Finally. It just makes me very happy.
Yeah, I love new stands, man.
Yeah,
Shit.
They're super pretty, and I'm going to be real protective of them.
Talking about something new, I got this nice little box sitting next to me, and
that's cool as hell.
A couple of weeks ago, I got all pissed off at a setup where I had my playback device set up on the side, and my talkback mic was all intertwined with the cable. So I was like, fuck it. You know what? I just want a Bluetooth box. And I went out and bought a company's Bluetooth device that kind of is just, connect your phone or any device to it and just XLR out to the console, right?
Okay.
It was insanely expensive. It didn't really sound that good. So I've asked Bernie at Truth and Audio to develop a little Bluetooth DI, and this is kind of the stage one of it. And he asked me to kind of bring it on and show it. I think Mike might be able to pull up some pictures, but it's got like a 2-day battery life. So my idea is just to kind of mount it in the doghouse, put it in the back of the desk. And when you turn the desk on, you turn this on. It's Bluetooth 5.0, so it's the most latest thing. It sounds really nice, a little bit wider of a spectrum, and in this sleek little box.
Well, Bernie is anything a master of, the outward design of things. He is so careful about how pretty things are, but of course, as we both know, he's also industrial design, I guess is what you'd call that. But he's also, kind of a bang whiz when it comes to the technology of things. So I can only imagine it's something vastly better than anything that's available on in the common marketplace.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like the size of it too is different than most. I don't know. I nerd out about certain shit like
Can
this.
you turn it on for me and let me get
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sense of the overall?
So the little switch, right? I don't know if you guys can see that.
Probably not, but yeah, that's real pretty with the LEDs on the front and the Truth and Audio logo.
Yeah, how tall it is too. It's like perfect for a Pelican.
Yeah.
So I feel like, second layer kind of shit, you put it in the bottom, set it and forget it, or just keep it in the back of the doghouse with some Velcro. It'd be perfect,
And the charging situation where that works out how?
Charging situation, just a little USB in the back. Like I said, the thing comes with a battery in it that lasts for 2 days.
Yeah.
But when you do want to charge it, there's an indicator, a little voltage meter on the front that lets you know how much is left.
Oh, that's cool.
I think the newer ones will have like a little meter, like 3 or 4 colors and a circle around it. It'll tell you a little bit more information. But yeah, so you just plug it into the wall. You can use your computer to charge it. I think it's only 4 volts or something like that, so pretty much anything can power it.
So it's right now strictly prototype.
Yeah, but this is what it looks like. Very nice box. Much appreciated that he's allowed us to kind of show it and build it for me.
You're kind of beta testing it for him.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. Very sweet. I'll have to put it through some trials and errors myself. So we got anything to add?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have, we'll make an all black version for you probably. You just have to ask him.
I probably would only have to ask, yeah. I think he would probably do that for me.
You might be able to put your face on the top of it. I don't know.
That part I'm not as, precious about, bro. Even the one when he did on my speaker, he arbitrarily came and got the speaker and said, look what I can do. I never said, hey, man, put my face on the top of my speaker.
It's kind of just like...
laser etch it into the metal. He just did that shit.
It's pretty dope.
Which was pretty cool of him, but, I'm only this much vain. That's like that much vain. Can't help myself.
Anyway, yeah. I also want to give a shout out to Scott Perlman. I got a gig coming up with him at the end of at the beginning of next month, October. We're going out with a Muscle Shoals original band, and never worked with them. I'm really looking forward to stepping on and doing some mixing with them and spending some time together in another state.
So if people don't know, that's Muscle Shoals. Muscle Shoals is a very famous recording location, and the band he's talking about is kind of like the Wrecking Crew in L.A. This is a bunch of just hot, broad, badass pickers and players, and they are on albums like Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett and the Rolling Stones. It's to go see this show would be great. And you said, and on this show, I bet I come off a little bit like I got a lot of friends that super care. I do.
Yeah.
But Scott Perlman, anybody will tell you this. I love that guy. Like he is he's the best. And to have him running and being involved in anything, that was what a sweet spot for both of you guys. So yeah, you guys are gonna have such a good time with that. And he's such a sweetie and so goddamn good. He'll make that thing run like a spin like a top. He's amazing.
We got him on monitors, and I think he's going to kill it. His tone and his philosophy, I think it'll just complement the whole thing so much more.
Yeah. And I imagine he's going to probably do some behind-the-scenes stuff. If I know him. He's kind of production manager extraordinaire. He's not just the mix badass.
Cool part, we got Jay Easley coming out to do the production management.
He's got that covered.
So, and I know both of them have worked together a bunch. I've met Jay a few times, but I'm also looking forward to meeting that guy and getting in his ear a bit. So it should be fun.
You're going out with some guys, bro. Those are some old school pros right there.
Yeah, I'm excited. Things are really lined up.
Well, you work hard and you're good at what you do.
And then I think the only other thing we got the day before that, me and Mike are doing a show out at Aftershock for a Chinese metal band or Japanese metal band called Nemophila. It should be pretty fun.
I heard that band, and they surprised me. They were extremely good at what they were doing, and it seems like it's perfect for Aftershock. Oh, yeah. And although it was in Japanese, musically it was very, very accessible. It was very, it was hitting a stride that was real recognizable.
For anybody that doesn't know, these are all smaller Japanese girls that you wouldn't believe how they can play metal music
kind of shred,
or sing at all. The whole package is pretty cool. So.
Yeah. That's a tendency to be a creation of something, regardless, whatever, if that's for real and what you see versus what you hear, if it's all happening at the same time. Right
sold.
on.
And I get to do a show with Mike. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't get to do shows a bunch. Usually we're on 2 different gigs. So when we
Gotcha.
get to
Well,
do some, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Sometimes we
Let's go out
got
and do
to
some
spread
shit.
the wealth out. You know, you can't put it all in one place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad you guys are getting to do some gigs together. You guys are going to have a great time. Don't you got Skinner coming up in Tesla?
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
guys
Shit.
are doing that as
Obviously.
well?
We're talking about Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
We're also going to go out and do a couple dates with Skinnerd. I think Tesla's going to be out. And a couple other bands. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was talking, Chopper's on that tour. Chopper Kovich, who is a dear friend. And would love to go see him. Now we have that's on for one of those nights is next Thursday, and so
you getting in the truck with me? You coming up?
I probably might I have to figure it out because we have Terry Lapani on next week. I'm going to reach out to him. I haven't been able to get through to him yet, but I'm going to reach out to him and see if we can move him and put him in the can, still air it that day. But I can run off to the show because I want to see my friend from North
Do you
Carolina.
guys realize this got to be a transition for Vince because not only did we get to go and I brought him out of the house in his own free will to go to see Def Leppard and Poison and Motley Crue, but he's also talking about going to another show, and you went out to go see
Sum 41 and somebody else.
No, not
Simple
Sum 40.
Plan.
Well, you went and saw that too. Fuck.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I was
It's 'cause
talking
my
about
friends
Incubus.
are working on
And
them, so I go and hang out with my friends, and
There's a lot of
I want to
shows
get
for
some
you, man.
photos and shit, and do my backstage thing. But mostly, that was Greg right out. This one's Chopper Kovich.
Yeah.
That one was Jeff Diffner, the Motley Crue thing.
Yeah.
And of course, we just know Def Leppard guys pretty well. So we were hanging out. You and I were hanging out and catering with Rick Allen, who's our good friend.
I'm
And that's
sure
always
their
fun,
whole
you know.
production really appreciated you putting our Beyond the Backstage Pass stickers on everything. It was awesome.
I only put like 6 or 7 stickers. They'll be traveling with a little extra flavor. I gotta, yeah. That's what I do.
All right, Bubba. Well, that was the week. It was pretty busy, but we're kind of almost at the end here. We got a couple gigs this weekend. Like I said, a lot of corporate stuff going out, and
Yeah,
and
it's a big
that
part of the deal.
Skinner gig. I can't believe that was the last thing we talked about.
I'm going to talk to the guest tonight about this, about the we're going to need a little roadie in action, okay, bro? Seriously, that's like the third fucking time.
All right, well, once you get into it, I'll fix it.
Once I get into it, I'm going to need it more than before.
He keeps on
You
dropping
guys
his pack.
cannot let me. All right, let's just remind everybody in the audience, I am super cool with it. I do the talking. You're supposed to mic me up, you fuckers, and you didn't. I'm having some problems. All right,
hold
okay.
on. I'll come over here.
All right,
Hold on.
thanks, buddy.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
so he's going to do some roadie shit. I got roadies coming from all directions.
This was the
right
last
now.
time I
All
slid in here.
Come on, somebody plug me
reached
in and
into
stop
your
this
shirt.
from happening. All right, listen, guys.
All right, give me your butt cheek.
I love these guys. They
Hi-ya.
make me look good. All I do is come out and be grumpy and
Yeah,
ask
I'm
my
turning
questions.
you up,
I am
too.
generally curious.
You need to hear what this
We
gentleman
could-
has to say.
we
He's
could.
a legend.
I know.
You better
who
be
I
nice
got
to
on TV
Curt.
tonight. I swear to God.
Okay.
I swear.
All right, you're good.
You sit your ass down, fella.
I'm going.
All right, listen. We've got a guy who is frankly in the game. When we talk about him, we're big on nostalgia, tradition, the people that helped us get to where we are today. Today's a very technical game. We bring it big. We bring it loud. But that started somewhere. That came from something. And a lot of there's guys early in the game, like the Jim Gambles and the Dirk Schuberts, and the lists are long, that really cut the path for us. And there are guys that hold the torch for that. These Dirk and Jim are still with us, gratefully and thankfully, but they don't come out much. They don't put themselves in the public, and that's just kind of a thing. And we all kind of fawn over them because they're so amazing. And our guest this evening is really he's the torchbearer, I think, of that movement. He's the guy that's got his eyes on it. He's created a page on Facebook called Gamble Console Group. That is, like, if you're down and you understand what I'm talking about, if I say something like EX56. This is the place you'd want to go and hang out and talk to us and be with friends about that. He's also is owner of a small business that really holds down his region well. That's Point Source Incorporated, and he's an incredible mix engineer that is also kind of you're a badass. He's the guy you want to hot rod your board if you're ever in that position. It is the one and only Curt Hare. Good evening, Curt. How are you? There he is. Listen, I'm not hearing Curt today. I'm hearing me.
Oh, there we go.
Curt. Can you hear him? Hang on one second.
Can you hear me?
Kids are working on it. Kids.
Yeah, I got him.
You got him?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Curt. I don't got
Hey,
him. Yeah, I don't got him. And I think I might need batteries, guys. Curt, bear with me.
no problem.
No problem, bro. Just batteries.
my
It's not
God.
big. Now, it could have been the few times, admittedly, that this has fallen on the ground since I'm wearing it. But we're going to see right now. Hook me up, Daddy. Thank you, brother.
Vince is a big fan of the Russian love. You just throw it on the ground a few times if it doesn't work. Wedge a piece of paper in it, you know.
Did we kill it? Yeah, I think I broke it.
You killed it?
I might have
Oh, my
killed it.
God. I'm so proud of you. Here, take mine.
No. We're in the house.
Oh.
Thank you,
Okay.
Curt.
You got me?
Yeah, I got you, buddy.
All right.
I
Thanks
don't-
for having me on.
And thank you. You're a sweetheart. You really are. Thank you for being patient with us. This is a DIY situation here. None of us claim to be broadcasters, Curt. None of us.
I get it.
Curt, I mentioned that we got strong love for you as it relates to many parts of your game. The gamble thing is a particular curiosity to us. I want to back up a little bit, though. I want to ask you, how would you describe what you do for a living? How would you describe Curt Hare to me? Break it down.
Well, for a living, we're a regional PA company. Provide a lot of stacks and racks packages for people coming through town, do festivals, full production, full audio production anyway. Lots of corporate, pretty well rounded as far as the client base. Pretty fair mix of corporate and rock and roll.
You ever find it interesting how some of our friends in our normal lives, our day to day, that have no way associated to our business, when you were just around the water cooler, kind of talk about the amount of corporate that we do in the business, and I think they have no idea what a huge part of our industry that is. It's some percentage of each of our businesses. How busy what region are you in exactly, brother? So the people.
Pacific Northwest. We do Seattle, Oregon, Idaho, little tiny bit of Vancouver now and then.
So you get the big dogs, the fly guys, the computer guys. Like I would imagine, without me naming names, I don't want to put you in the spot. And there's names that I don't throw around loosely too much around here either.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff at what's now called Mopop, which was originally Experience Music Project, which was part of Paul Allen's philanthropic efforts in the area.
Yeah, I know I actually have some notes here on that. You personally spent, about 22 years at Mopop doing, was that your house job for that amount of time?
Well, we've been the in-house vendor. When they built the place, the people who built the room that we do the events in really didn't have a mandate that there'd be concerts. And then my understanding is Paul walked in and said, we need to do concerts here. But there was zero infrastructure for any of that. No one, that was the first time anybody went there. And so I had some friends who had started there in AV positions. And when it came time to bring somebody in, at first it was just a couple of weeks. It was, let's see how this goes kind of thing. And so we loaded in and did a couple of weeks of shows, and it went well for everybody because they were testing the waters too, whether they really wanted to try to do music. And,
Sure.
And so we got it pretty dialed pretty fast, and I ended up with a pretty long-term contract, and it just keeps renewing. We've been in there 22 years. My daughter was 6 months old when I started, and she's in the third year of college now.
My goodness, that's amazing. You blink, and then
But I it's not like I'm not an employee. I've mixed up a couple hundred shows in there for sure, but in the beginning, there was a lot of music. It was crazy. We were doing all kinds of national acts and all kinds of stuff. And then after 9/11, it kind of went away, and now it's mostly corporate parties and stuff like that with a band.
Sure. No, I know the exact type that you're talking about. How would you say that you came to the industry? What was your first kind of inkling that you had an affinity for sound or the gear? Or, talk to us about that. Like, how did you get into the game?
Well, I'll try for the Clip Notes version. I started playing guitar and singing and stuff when I was in the 7th grade, and we had been into music before that, but I got turned on to the Dead back then, and very quickly realized that there was a lot going on technologically that was new to me, and I really dove into that, and I really studied Meyer and Crest and, Dr. Don and Dan Healy and Alembic guys and the whole Wall of Sound and all that. I digested all that and researched as much as I could. It was hard because there's no internet back then, of course.
Right.
So I pieced together what I could and I learned what I could. I guess, moving into high school, I was playing in bands, and we would go to whatever house the parents had been unfortunate enough to leave town that weekend for, and load in a bunch of stuff and
Sure.
set up and play till the cops got there.
Yeah.
And it kind of turned out to be like a thing where somebody had to know how to plug all this stuff together, and it kind of ended up being me.
Yeah.
So.
It felt like you just had the kind of natural way of seeing the signal flow, and it just made sense to you.
I think looking back, I have a bit of a engineering mentality when it comes to that, along with the creative side. And I wouldn't have known what to call it back then, but it came fairly easy to me in the beginning. I think I probably was doing a lot of stuff wrong by my current standards, but sound came out.
Did a bunch of those shows where the sound just came out.
Yeah. It was
early days. We were still figuring it out. It was, I remember the miracle of figuring out how to control omnidirectional waves that was a really relatively recent development in our game. There have been so many years just letting it loose and letting it fly. And, I remember those big old trap box. You were there. Owner operator of Point Source Incorporated, the guys that have worked in I have those pages, so I'm frequently communicating with different heads. And when people notice, because I put an ad out for you across platforms, and people were airing in comments, and apparently to the person, the roadies that have come through on your rigs say that you keep, apparently you dress out your wrecks just perfect. All your stuff is tip top and ready to go. What's the secret to running a small business, a regional business, who I'm similarly fixed, to keeping that high level of game up?
Trying to get the information as early as you can in the process. That's not quite been as easy these days. But I think one of the things with us is we can't just package everything to be like a complete tour ready thing, because we need a lot of versatility in where things get deployed. So I have to constantly be grabbing something and moving it to a different rig because it has a different requirement. So we try to standardize as much as we can, but there's still a bit of a flexibility. It has to be built into everything.
Well, yeah, I think in the regional movement, I think it's just kind of part of it. It seems to me. I make a lot of boutique rigs, you can almost say, that are very specific, and particularly for the corporate stuff. You know this, the different breakout rooms, all the stuff that can be the big weddings in many different locations, from receptions to the event itself, on and on. So it's, right. But what I think the guys are mostly impressed with is how you keep up your gear, and that. They always have a really pleasant experience working for Point Source. And I've had a lot of folks on this show, and that was the first time I had gotten comments like that. We've had over 100 shows and worked with a lot of really wonderful people and had some amazing people, and many different comments. I was impressed that those comments were consecutive and multi. And so, hats off to you, because that is a daily challenge that I'm facing here, and I know how hard the work is. And so, it's a big deal. I wanted to do a quick shout out as it relates to comments to Kurt Christoph said that you were an amazing chef. He was not also the only one who brought up your cooking ability. What's going on? How did they know this? Are you bringing people home and feeding them your best, or what's going on?
I have some barbecues now and then, and do a holiday party. Bring people who work for me and clients and stuff over. So. Actually, I do a corporate event where I'm on the road with a couple of my guys and some video people and lighting people that we work with all the time. And the promoter, or the producer, I guess, kind of gives me a budget and says, why don't you just come up with some meals? So I'll have some of my guys actually mixing some of the show, and I'll go back to the house that they get us and kind of whip up a spread. It kind of started as a bit of a joke, but it's turned into a fun thing.
Well, it sounds like you're doing it really well. And do you enjoy being around the campfire? You're cooking? I mean, is that something that's, You know,
Yeah, when I was a kid, my mom worked graveyard, and so I was either like live on Campbell's soup and toast or figure it out. So it's kind of where it started, I guess, looking back.
yeah.
But I just, it's a creative thing. I like to be creative in whatever way it can manifest itself. Doesn't really matter.
No, you're not wrong, and that's food is definitely an outlet for that. That sounds great. Importance of mentor. You mentioned Dan Healy a minute ago, and I know that you had Don Pearson in your life. Talk to me about the importance of mentors in your life and the role they played in you becoming who you are today.
Well, in particular, those guys were heroes early on. Before I met either one of them, I don't claim to really be close friends or have been close friends with either one of them, but I did have some time with both of them, especially after Don went to work for Meyer, and I bought my first Meyer rig. He would call me just on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. to check in and see how things were going. And I spent a bunch of time with him down there in the theater, of course, before it was named for him. So that was great. And I learned a lot just from studying him and how his approach to, no compromise was, and, system measurement, and those kinds of things. As far as Dan Healy, I learned a lot about how to mix in a realistic way without being over sensational about things, presenting things accurately, but with a little extra polish, I guess.
A little sauce.
Yeah. And I had a couple of times with Healy and with Dr. Don that really, I think, made me go into the industry full time instead of being a drywaller and a painter and all that kind of stuff that I was doing when I was a kid and playing in bands and all that.
Sure.
And I guess I used to go see the Dead a lot. We go to the Bay Area a lot. We go to the Greek and the Frost and Cal Expo. And so I would always go back and scope everything out like a lot of people do. And I'm looking through the bike barricade and trying to figure out, what does this multi-pin do? And where does it go? And why is it color-coded this way? And how are all these things wired? And how they dress the racks? And what's the hardware? And all these kinds of things. And he, after a few years of me doing that every time I was there, kind of, I guess, figured out who I was a little bit, like recognized me.
Yeah.
And so I'd get the nod or whatever. And then at the Frost, he kind of gave me the come on up and check it out. So I got up there at front of house. I'm like 24, maybe 23.
And the Frost is at Stanford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great place.
And so I'm up there for, 15, 20 minutes, and he's showing me around and talking to me, and I'm letting, asking questions and stuff. And, so that was great. And then maybe would have been early summer of 90. I'm at Cal Expo, and I'm back there doing the same thing. And I didn't really catch his eye, I don't think. And so I turn around, I did what I came to do. I looked at what I looked at, and I went and turned around to go back to my friends, and I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, this big security dude in the yellow shirt. And I'm like, great, what did I do? And he says, well, that guy told me to stop you and to get you. And I look up, and it's Healy. And he's like, come on up. So I'm like, okay, great. So, I'd already done this at the, maybe a year ago. So I go up and I'm looking around and talking to him, and it's all great. And he's explaining different things to me. One thing that sticks out is he had all this great stuff. He had a 480, and, he could add anything he wanted.
That's right.
And in the rack, there's two LXP1s. And I'm like, what? And they just come out, but it's still, music store reverb. And I'm like, why do you have those? And I'll never forget. He's like, I ran out of effect sends. And so the only way I could put a reverb on the snare was to put it in the insert. And then he used the blend control to control how much verb was on each snare drum.
Very clever.
Which I thought was interesting, in the trenches thing. So anyway, that just pops into my head. But so I'm up there and I'm hanging out, and I'm up there for a good 20, 30 minutes. And that's usually like at Stanford when I, kind of left on my own accord. I didn't want to be a nuisance. So you get the call backstage saying, show's going to start. They're coming out, 5-minute warning or whatever it was.
Right.
And I knew that's what was going on. So I turned to him and Don, and I was like, well, hey, great. Thanks. Super nice to have, been invited up and look around. Have a great show. And Dan's like, don't you want to stay for the gig? And I'm like, what? So next thing I know, I'm standing there at Cal Expo with Dan Healy and Don Pearson for the whole show, right next to Dan while he mixes the gig.
Amazing.
And that was kind of the thing where I was like, wow, this is what I should be doing. I shouldn't be hanging drywall and painting houses. I should be, this feels right. And I went back home, and it wasn't long before I put a bunch of stuff into motion to get out of that, and really, started building some boxes, and built a in-ear rig from scratch, including the molds when you couldn't get anything but Future Sonics, and that led to a bunch of other crazy stuff that kind of turned into, hey, we should have a PA company.
Industrious, very industrious. The ear thing is particularly interesting, and it sounds like that was a kind of a very special moment, and you're lucky.
That was a life-changing thing.
Yeah,
because I was like, this is what it could really be like. And I'd never really been on that level anywhere in that position to stand there with those two guys and watch that happen.
You pay that forward. I mean, is that how you kind of comport yourself in life now?
Anytime I see somebody interested, that looks like they're genuinely interested, they're invited up.
Yeah, you're a good man. Yeah, then as it should be. As it should be. This is how information and knowledge just passes between people over time, and hopefully you can find people that are interested and understand that a lot of hard work in the mix stuff. But yeah, very cool. I noticed, and I have to bring this up because it's fascinating to me. You own 5 Gambles. What the hell, buddy? Why are you being all hoggy with all the Gambles?
I have a gamble problem.
Yeah, I have a gamble problem.
I have a gamble problem.
This is one of the good gamble problems. What flavors are you sitting on?
I have this HC40 behind me that I use in this hybrid studio that I put together.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
That was built for the Yes 90125 tour, and then did I think Dave Matthews tour, a few other things. It eventually ended up as the sub mixer for Mickey Hart for the drum solos with the Dead.
Very cool.
And then ended up in their rehearsal studio. After that, I went to Chubb Carrier. Or I think he might have owned it that much of that time. And then Tony from Telefunken bought it from Chubb's widow. And then I stumbled into a conversation online where he was saying, he's got this console and they're not really using it anymore, and it should go to a good home. And I was just like, well, I guess I'm the guy. So that's how that started.
Very cool.
And then I've got 4 EXs, one of which I restored, and the other 3 are in the queue.
Yeah, well, we have every so often Kevin Karicki's nearby, and a friend. And,
he's great.
Kev and his whole posse. And, he was early school with that stuff, as you well know. And he loans us his number 6 every so often, his EX56 number 6.
Yeah, Kevin was instrumental in the whole thing. Kevin, actually, I was going to fly him up here and had tickets and reservations, everything. And then COVID there's no way.
Yeah.
And so he would get on FaceTime with me and send me parts and talk me through rebuilding this one. That's what I started with him.
What an asset! What a resource! I mean,
geez. And it's the guy's amazing, because I remember one time he was on like speakerphone and he went out of the room to do something, and his son was there. Yeah, and he'd been rattling off, when you measure that, it should be this, and that should be that value, and you should follow this trace and make sure. And he's telling me all of this stuff, and his kid, when his dad was out of the room, he goes, he doesn't have any schematics or a laptop or anything in front of him. He's just telling you all of this from memory.
That's Chris. That's Chris telling it. Chris Karicki.
Yeah. And I was just stunned. I was like, really?
Yeah. True.
So Kevin's awesome. He's been a great friend. He's very supportive. He helped me a lot, him and Dirk, through learning how to clean up and restore number 38, which is the one I bought from Dave Shadone.
That you got 38 is one of the Shadone ones.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And
it's the one that Scoville used at the Truth and Audio thing, and I got it next.
No kidding. Yeah, and that means it passed through this building then, because that happened right here, correct? Am I remembering this wrong?
He delivered it to me in LA because I was down there doing a corporate gig at some huge hotel. I don't remember which one. Oh. And we had set the deal up already. And he was like, I said, I'm going to be in LA and there's room on this semi to go back. That way nobody has to pay shipping. And he said, I got trucks going to LA all the time. So he dropped it in the corner of the ballroom. And we stuck it behind some pipe and drape. And then on rehearsal day, the profile that I was mixing on for the show died. And we're like, what are we going to do? And I'm looking around for another profile or something that I could get in there. And then the guy who was my A2 and was going to mix in-ears for the band that would follow, he used to work for Jim, building the DCXs in Tahoe, guy named Bill Johnson.
Right.
And he he's like, there's a gamble sitting in the corner behind pipe and drape. So we hauled that thing out and we flipped it and doubled the size of tech.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and then he mixed ears on it, and I used the ST48 to do the corporate AV part.
Very, very
So
cool.
it saved the day and did a gig before I ever even got it back to Seattle.
Those things, man, and they're kind of bulletproof when they're going right. They're going right. And
Yeah.
you said you got number 38 from Shadone or some circumstances like that. 200 hours. What did
It took about 200 hours to do it, but I was learning. I bet I could do the next one in 150. I've got number 7, which was that was built for Aerosmith, and it's the first one built by Crest. But it was
right.
What I'm told is that Jim personally went out there and built that with the Crest guys to get the first one done with him around.
Oh,
So,
and it's serial number 38. I don't know why I thought that.
no. 38 is the one I got from Dave.
Okay.
The next one I'm going to do is number 7.
Okay.
Which is the first one built
yes.
at Crest.
I was just going to say, my impression was that they had got to those way earlier than 38.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7's the first one.
Yeah.
38's the one I restored. 7's the next one.
Yeah.
Right-hand master.
I think the 6 was the last for them, and then bam, it went off.
Yeah. 6 was the last one in Tahoe.
Mm-hmm. Very, 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 very cool. I actually heard some songs that you mixed through it, and it sounded great. It actually compelled me to put them on a better system so I could really truly hear it. And as far as I could tell, you're making really pretty music with that console.
Thank you.
Setting up the Gamble's console group, my co-host ran off to use the restroom or something, but he's always he's always talking about that page, and I know what it is to run a page. Do you administer that page directly and own it outright?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of gone way beyond anything I ever expected.
Yeah.
When I first started restoring number 38, I was posting a couple of pictures here and there of like pulling a module out and like some ribbon case, just a little stuff. And I got interest in people, industry people kind of, asking a question here or there or liking it. And I kind of thought, well, instead of just randomly putting this stuff up every 5 or 6 days, why don't I make a place where it can all be together? And maybe somebody will have some resources for parts, because I didn't really know what I was going to get into here. I didn't know that wasn't going to need a bunch of parts or something. Or techniques. I figured, maybe somebody else has done some of this. And I thought, well, why don't I start this thing? And then at least all the information can be in one place, and there could be maybe a way for exchanges. I thought there'd be 15 or 20 people, and I thought I would already know 10 of them. But there's like 720 people or something in there.
Is that what you're at right now? Yeah, I was just gonna peek just out of curiosity. Yeah, no, it's a little bit of a thing running those groups. I mean, you got to keep an eye, and I know you're also very kind about when you let people in and you welcome to the group. I just thought a couple of your approaches to it as having a couple of my own groups. I thought that you handle it with class, and a lot of the people that I share in common with you. People in the industry, this is one of them that they think is worthy, and they get a lot of good information from. So, and I know particularly Kyle Thomas is a big, huge fan. And of course, we have the Quickies down the street from us here, and on and on. But it seems like it's growing appropriately for the love of what is, one of the coolest consoles in the game, and a pioneer in the industry. Do you have much? Do you ever get to communicate with Jim Gamble? You mentioned that you had relations with
a little.
Dirk.
Not that much. I mean, I've been on the phone with Kevin a couple times, and he'd ambush me and just dial Jim in. Yeah. And when you get those two on the phone, you kind of sit back and just let them
do their
riff on each other, because it's pretty entertaining. So not a lot. I've emailed and messaged with Jim a little bit. It's nice to see him getting more and more involved. Must be strange for someone to have a group started by someone else about their work. But, again, I never thought it would do all of this. I thought it was just going to be a little thing to exchange some information. So that's nice. I've also seen quite a few sort of reintroductions, maybe some people who hadn't thought of or seen each other in 20 years that have reconnected on there through, just the fact that they're both on there. Or one guy will make a comment and he'd be like, man, I haven't talked to you in 25 years, so that's nice and, completely unexpected.
It's the magic of social media. It's really an odd tool, and it can be tricky. I don't know if you've encountered that. You have people behaving badly, for example, or not.
Oh, I get a lot of, not a lot. I get some bots and some, scammers and stuff like that, but it's pretty easy to spot them because you just kind of click through some of their pictures and you don't see a console or a PA in the first 10.
Yeah. chuck them right
they're,
off.
they're 14-year-old girl or something. It's like probably not really a real person. So
Yeah, no,
I clean house now and then.
Yeah. It's critically important for the kind of the fluidity of the page. I've noticed that you have good fluidity on yours. I'm compelled to move forward in the page, and there's stuff I'm learning, and it's in a kind of a quick, digestible way. It's kind of the clickbait phenomenon, as it were. And there's folks that want to drag on, want to get into that 700 people and start, I'm not sure exactly the right way to put it. I just know I have to deal with it with some frequency, and then the pages I'm running are around 20,000 a piece, and so it can be time consuming. It can be a real thing, and luckily they have some of the parameters you can put on the page to give you a little control over it to make sure that things are going well. We were talking, and I think. I probably spent about as much time being a house cat as I've been doing work on the road in my career over a lifetime. And so I've got a perspective from both things. And I think in our business, I think we sometimes put a weird emphasis on the touring technicians, the touring audio guys, the touring lighting guys, like it's somehow, that's the big guns. In some ways that there's some truth to that. In other ways, it's missing the point. It's that a company like Sound Image or Point Source. I know that you made a conscious choice to not become a touring tech. I know you mentioned earlier in the conversation that you had some early experience with bands, but what was the thinking in that? Was this love of your own pillows?
I wanted to be there to raise my kids, and I was in a position where I was able to afford to I didn't have to tour to make a living. I was able to make it work and build the company and stay home, or at least mostly stay home. I don't regret it. There's probably some experiences I could have had that would have been interesting, but I don't know that I'd trade it. I wouldn't mind getting into a position of touring with the company. It's kind of something I'd like to grow into in the next couple of years. My circumstances with my youngest will change a little bit, and that will kind of allow me to explore more of those options. But I wouldn't have been able to build what I'm doing now if I'd been on the road the whole time. So.
No, it's clear that there's a choice. There's a fork in the road at some point, and you made a really good choice, and you built this wonderful company that many people envy, and you got to also be a dad and do that 100%. That's I would. It sounds like you landed in flowers on that one, and good
worked out all right.
Yeah, good for you. It's again, I understand both sides of the argument of having been in both sides of it, and they both have validity. I think there's a lot in this business that's beyond, when people, I think, customarily think of a roadie. There's so much more of what's going on than the road part. And there's a whole career to be made, and you've done that for sure. I think I know this because, I think I heard I want to say 4 of your mixes. I want to say that I had heard 4 of them. But what would you describe your philosophy on mixing? I've always kind of put it into 2 camps. It was always kind of the somebody who really loved to put their foot on the gas and just, peak all the reds, or kind of in the soft and the subtle and at amplitude. What kind of philosophy do you have in mixing?
I'm not afraid of, filling the room with sound, but I like it to be accurate. I like the kick drum to sound like a kick drum.
Yeah.
And then maybe give it a little 10% of sensationalism, but I like things to essentially be what they really sound like. Like, I'll go up on stage and I'll listen to the guy play the drums. I'll listen to the guy's guitar amp without, just so I know what it really sounds like, and then try to emulate that. Try to, get things blended. It's all about the blend, placing things in the mix, making, playing music helps, I think, because I have an understanding about how the arrangements might work and what the predominant part might want to be in that section of the song. I think if you get it dialed in and you have good players, you get your blend and your balances, and then you kind of let them mix. If you're lucky enough to have a band that can play that way, and if you need to help them out a little bit here and there, fine. But I try to not be heavy-handed about it. I try to get it to sound accurate, clean, clear, realistic with the panning, those kinds of things. Not too much compression, but plenty of use of high pass filter.
Well, it sounds like a mixed philosophy I can totally get behind, absolutely. Although there's a place for the, bringing it and rolling down the first 23 rows.
Well, yes, it depends on the type of music too.
Sure. Well, we just recently had the opportunity to see this in one concert because the headliners were both national acts, and one of them ripped the heads off everybody and was very uncomfortable. And then the last one that closed, another very large band, came with that philosophy, and it was such a A-B situation, and it was really, it's kind of wonderful to kind of watch the sweep of the curve and all the options that are there.
Right.
It was same exact line array, same exact everything. It was choices that were being made, and there was something for everybody, I guess you could say.
I think I might have been at that show at a different venue.
Yeah. I think you might know exactly what I'm talking about, and it was alluded to earlier. And for me, it was an A/B thing. I was going with the closing act as it related to what worked, and it just did better, regardless. I know you're a big fan, or at least it's something with I'm sure your limited free time, being a father and owner of a small business. It's taking photographs, photography. Is this? Am I wrong? Is this? You sent me a couple of really great photos. You really seem like you know how to frame a shot. Catch a moment.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a professional photographer for Boeing, and so I grew up in the dark room in the basement and all that stuff. And I would remember hanging out down there with him. While he was using the enlarger and developing the chemicals in the tray and all that kind of old school analog.
Yeah.
And it's just something I kind of discovered later on. Not so great at people pictures. I kind of wait for the people to get out of my picture. I like the landscape stuff, architecture stuff, and the composition.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like doing a mix. It's like you figure out the part that you need to highlight,
sure,
and the angle you need to come at it from. And so it's just another way to be creative, I guess. And that might be part of the food thing too. Is that I like to plate correctly. I suppose it's another way to create a thing to take a picture of. So.
Well, the plate thing. So there's something apparently. There's studies have been done on the plate thing. Apparently, when you plate a food in an appealing way, it is opposed to taking it and slopping it down on a similar plate and then putting that in front of some kind of an A/B thing. They somehow enjoy the plated one better, the one that's taken the concern and the care for. So it's partly psychological there, but I totally agree with you.
It's the same. It comes from the same place as doing a mix or tuning a rig or whatever. It's all the same process. It just manifests itself in different ways. I mean, I'll look at the geometry of the food and I'll make sure that it's arranged in a way that the curve of one thing and the straightness of the other thing are placed so they will complement each other and work together. It's no difference than making sure the kick and the bass are cooperating.
Or packing a truck. I can imagine your Tetris your Tetris is strong. I have this funny feeling.
It took a while to get back after 2 years of involuntary retirement, but I've had a couple of good truck packs lately.
It's funny. I think I it's been a minute because we got back on right almost as soon as that was available to us, and so we've been back at it for a minute, and we've been going pretty hard.
Don't let him lie to you. He has me. He doesn't have to think about it anymore.
All right, there is some truth to what he said. That is kind of true, but remember,
Tetris God.
He just got back from tour, and that made it so I was, more in the mix. But no, I think there was a weird curve where just in the Tetris of things, when we were building shows back up and getting them out of here in a timely fashion. He's right about that. That's super strange. Regardless, it serves us well. That kind of, I think that OCD kind of anal retentive qualities. I don't know what the right terminology is for it, or even to put that type of label on it, but they will tell you I have some of those similar characteristics, and I think it serves us well in our business. I really do. I think
Agreed.
For the details that we're to look after, that comes in handy, and it's just a thing. It's part of it. This is a strange question, but I'm honestly curious about this, Curt. Your man has done hundreds of shows. You've built a strong business that people envy and appreciate. If you could search your memory, tell me what your favorite moment was in the rock and roll business and the live production business? Was it when you were standing back there learning with Don and Dan, or was it, I mean?
Well, that's a turning point for sure, and a favorite moment overall in my life. As far as in my own work, well, let's see. Some of these things I've gotten to do at the Mopop, formerly EMP, some of those events were pretty great. Some of the things I've gotten to mix recently on the Gamble are pretty nice. I think mainly for me, it's whether I'm mixing or as a systems guy, I like to turn around in front of house and look back at the people. And if I see people who just kind of have their eyes closed and are just kind of grooving to it, and it makes me feel like I'm doing my job. Like they're not conscious of the PA. They don't feel like it's just music. They're not aware of everything that's going into it. So that's, for me, that's kind of one of the best things.
That is such a good answer, dude. That is a sweet answer. I so get that. I looked over at Kyle while you were talking, and I said, that's my move. I love that move.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much.
I love that move. That moment when you flip it, you just pull a Yui and check out what the crowd's doing and how they're feeling it and how they're carrying it. And if you're basically, you're immersing them in this moment together. It's
it's a great feeling because they don't know everything you did to make it get to that point, but you can realize that you've connected that person who's lost in the moment or lost in the music with the performance of the musicians. You've plugged the two together. That's the whole point, I think.
Yeah, no, it's very, very special, and I think it's part of the drug that keeps us in the game and on the harder days and the longer nights, and you absolutely know what I refer to.
And you guys know better than I do, just from age. But
it's called us old church.
I feel like PAs and stuff have gotten so more like complex and more precise that you have to go into this whole other headspace that it's easy to miss exactly what Kurt's talking about. It's like you got to kind of step out and put yourself in the bubble and get the energy and make sure everything's on point that way.
You think, as what I think he said, Kurt, is he's saying in the digital era, because of some of the added complexities and details, because there actually is a few more steps in the mix. But we would JBL the shit. We would fucking EQ the shit out of a show. I mean, like
you can get very lost looking at the screen and not paying attention to what's going on musically or in the space.
Right. Yeah.
You need to look up from the screen, or Gamble doesn't have a screen.
That's right. You turn a knob, it actually does something right away.
You turn a knob and it does what it's supposed to do.
We have a friend, Kevin Batty Walsh, who we adore. He's overseas, but he's the third guitar technician for Iron Maiden. And he hates screens on the boards with a furious passion, unlogical. It's like, you know what I mean? It's unreasonable. His vehement like that and love for catering is he's just an absolute nut job. Do you still, you're the boss. Do you get a lot of opportunities to go out and mix, or do you create those opportunities?
I only bring the Gambles out a couple times a year, and it's when I have an opportunity to either work with a client that wants that kind of a thing and isn't interested in snapshots and recreating how the record sounds, that kind of stuff. So I mix digital quite a bit too, especially on the corporate stuff if I'm there, or sometimes I'll be mixing the opening act on some other show that we're providing for. And I mean, digital certainly has its advantages in a lot of ways, as far as like truck pack size, and
real estate
flexibility, and recallability. I mean, there's don't get me wrong, there's all of these things where I totally get why people embrace that. But if you don't need that kind of stuff and it's just strictly about how it sounds, then I'll take the analog any day.
Can't argue with that.
I think a wise man said it best.
Even try to argue with that.
Bernie Broderick said it best. He said the outboard gear was really just more real estate for chicks to be at front of house. The bigger the rack, the more space you had, right?
Well, this is a kind of a joke. It's like the H3000, the Heritage 3000.
Yeah.
The Mondo board, the big with the sidecar, that sumbitch. And so the joke is, excuse me, honey, this is a roadie joke. It's so not me. But those were the days when the board would help you get laid. Now the board Kurt doesn't want to hear that either. I don't think.
Well, you look around though. The whole argument that it saves a bunch of space in front of house is long gone because whatever space was saved by making the audio console smaller has been eaten up by all lighting and video becoming huge.
Valid. He's so right about that, dude. Yeah. No, we gave back a lot of space. This was pre-video, right? So we started going over, and videos are still eking into. We're putting them in the corner and shit. Like trying to put them in the backyard if we can, and eventually they just crept, and now you're just right. Yeah, it's a real one. Because now we were just at a very large national show. Remember the size of the front of house?
Oh yes.
That was a very standard front of house.
Yeah, double decking.
Yeah,
4 stations. Very standard.
Pretty straightforward. So although back in the day, that would have been on the second, the big analog console would have been on the big, and all the outboard gear would have been on the second deck, and you just would have been the God view. Now, one thing that also allows you to have multiple mixing consoles in a way that is way more serviceable and
convenient
and financially serviceable, which is obviously it's got a pencil. That's a big part of it.
And you still got 3 guys bringing 3 of the same console, and nobody's sharing, even though they could all just load a file.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I don't even. I'm not going to get into that one, but I'm with you. I understand what you're saying. You've made some very specific choices in your life. You pursued this intentionally. You came into this world with, I think, the right kind of. Nobody's asking me, but from a curiosity and a passion between being a music lover and a guy interested in the gear and the technology of it. There's a lot of young people coming up in this game. We run a pretty big shop here. We have folks coming in and out, and I'm curious, what kind of advice would you have for a youngster coming to you and saying, Curt, I want to get in the game. How do I get in the game? What would you say?
I think it's important to pay attention to the people who came before us. And I mean, quite a while before us. You go back and listen to some of these mixes, back in the Universal Audio studio days and, that kind of stuff, analog compressors, all that stuff. There's a lot of magic going on in those things that I think kids these days have never even heard. So I would say that, learn what things really sound like. Go up and listen to the drums themselves before you put them in the PA. See what the drummer actually wants his drums to sound like. Kick drums aren't 100 feet tall. It's lead kick drum is kind of a odd choice, I think. Nothing against having a big, strong kick drum that you feel, but keep things in proportion. Learn how to blend. Go back and listen to some of the old stuff that you might not think is cool, but there's a lot to be learned.
Frampton comes alive. Give them that one immediately.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a weird thing, but I was at the grocery store, 9-10 months ago, and I'm standing there in the bread aisle, and they got it's not Muzak really anymore. It's more like oldies now.
Okay.
It's not 1,000 violins anymore at the grocery store. So I'm standing there and I'm hearing the Oh, What a Night by
What a Night.
Yeah. Frankie Valli, the Four Seasons.
Yeah, that's great. Classic.
And I'm standing under this ceiling speaker that's like 30 feet in the air, and I'm like, why does this sound so good? It's like I can hear everything. I can hear the drums, I can hear the bass, I can hear the vocal, I can hear the reverb. It's like, this isn't possible. And I've heard the song a million times, but I never was critical about it. So I came home and I checked it out and I put it on the Amy's behind me here, and it was stunning. And it's, I started thinking about it. I started listening to headphones. There's massive compression because the people were mixing for the little speaker in your mom's station wagon dashboard, and they knew what the medium was going to be.
Yeah.
And they're mixing and mastering for that. And it's, there's no dynamic range at all, but it doesn't sound bad. They were able to compress these things, and they're mixing they're almost using compression like automation, where they're side chaining and they're compressing groups and stuff, and the drums will bloom when the vocal goes away. And that's not automation or a computer or programming. And it's if you listen carefully, not a lot of it is even guys with faders. A lot of it seems to be the side chaining and these really vintage comps, and things sound real. If you listen to that track, the drums sound like you're standing there next to the drummer. The bass sounds like a guy playing a Fender through a combo amp. It's very real.
Dude,
Love
You know, you
we're
might not like the music, and it's not. I'm not talking about the music. I'm talking about the sounds
No,
and the techniques.
actually, and that with that example, I think you'd be able to do both. Be able to enjoy the song because it's a great song.
I just
Yeah,
went
it is a
down
great
this.
song,
I
but
went
might not
down
be
a
everybody's
rabbit
cup
hole
of
with
tea.
this.
Yeah,
Dean
no.
Martin, we were just talking about this.
So
shit.
yeah, we threw on some Frank today, and some Sinatra. He was, and we were considering Peggy Lee. It was too late before the show, so I had to ixnay the Peggy Lee, but we were considering some Danny Kaye and some Dean Martin. You know, because just to kind of fumble around in it, and it's freaking great music. And like you said, it bums me out that some of the young people aren't intellectually curious about what has come before and what can be
that
done.
stuff sounds great.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you know, you have to just kind of realize that it's their goal was realism.
Yeah, and they were amazing, and some of that stuff is captured really well. Now, of course, it's hard to know when you listen to a modern recording how many times that's been remastered from Nelson Riddle's original stuff, and but.
There's something special when you put on like Blue Moon or something.
Oh,
like
dude,
I was just
it's-
going through this trip this week. I was telling you at lunch.
Yeah.
And it's just there's something like you're saying, because it hasn't been remastered a million times. It just is what it is.
That Nat King Cole one was
Same way.
Yeah, that
The
orange.
sunset,
Yeah, and hearing
orange
a real
sunset.
room or real chamber,
Yeah.
hearing actual reverb in the real room.
Yeah.
You know, that's you.
Priceless.
I mean, just M7 or something's really really nice, but
You're not wrong.
yeah, but here in the real room is the real room.
My friend, I have to thank you for coming out. First of all, for being patient with us. We're fumblers over here, a bunch of knuckleheads.
No problem.
Yeah, the whole battery thing, that was awesome. But it was just a treat to get in your head and to hear about your story and your experiences. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with me and my friends and the audience. We very much appreciate it. We wish you continued
thank you so
success and
much.
all good things going forward. You need us at all. We're one phone call away. Sound Image Productions or the crew at Beyond the Backstage Pass. We got your back. Thank you for being here tonight.
Great, thanks for having me on.
All right, pal. Take good care of yourself. Thank you.
Bye.
What a
All right,
nice
guys.
guy, dude.
He's a sweetheart of a guy. He's clearly the real deal. And I want to get his perspective. We dig what he's doing, and I know you dig his page.
Yeah, well, you can tell it's a dude that doesn't do it for the money, does it for the heart, and that's the right reason. Right?
Well, and hopefully he gets paid at the same time.
Exactly.
That's the side kind of effect of that. We're going to do this. We do this every week. We're going to do it again next week. But we do have this added complication of Tesla, Leonard Skinner. I kind of want to go see Choprakovich. But that first show is, I think, on a Thursday. And so I'm going to figure it out with Terry Lapani. We got Terry Lapani next week. He's going to be in one way or another. I'm going to try to pull his arm. He lives over in San Francisco, so we're going to get him to come over here, and he's going to be physically here. We're hopefully going to have him before that date, put it in a can, and air it while we go and put on a rock show. So one way or another, there will be a show next Thursday with Terry Lapani, an incredible roadie, fresh off a tour, badass, sweetheart of a man. We're going to have him on the show. We're going to talk, and he's going to tell us his stories and tell us where the body's buried. Until then, and thank you, Kyle, for being here.
Of
Good to
course,
see you,
brother.
buddy.
You as well.
I want to send out love to my girl. I'm crazy in love with my girl. She's amazing. I love her. And a nice hi to Scott Cheney and to Charlie Zaricki, and of course Tony Lewis, who's very good to us and very kind, and all of the Pat O'Douls and all the different kids sharing and being in the comment world. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Until then, behave, be kind, be good. You know what to do.